This segment sponsored by Foster Financial. Welcome to Wealth Wednesday with Foster Financial. Today we are talking Social Security cost of living increase. So it's time to get some great holistic updates with their Vice President, Caleb Doan. Good morning, Caleb.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you. Okay, so let's dive into this topic. So apparently there's a change or increase in the cost of living. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's something that typically happens every single year as long as, inflation is positive, which is typically the case, especially over the past couple of years. So a lot of people got this letter in the mail recently saying, hey, your Social Security benefits are going to increase by 3.2% starting in 2024.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of the calculation that they did. They have a certain kind of inflation calculation that they use to determine what the new Social Security benefits are going to be. So if somebody was receiving Social Security in 2023, their benefits in 2024 are going to be 3.2% higher.
So question for you, does that apply to all of our salaries too?
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, that would be great,
why
right?
can't that be across the board? Because honestly, inflation is overwhelming. You know, the cost of living, the cost of items in the grocery store, gas, all of that is skyrocketing. But I feel like there's not an even playing field when it comes to normal income. But that's so great that it is with Social Security. And so what is the cause for these adjustments, do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, they have a certain basket of goods that they look at. I think they really use the Consumer Price Index to see, what inflation was over the course of the year and then increase it by that for the next year. The issue is, obviously, it only happens one time a year. And so right now, a lot of retirees are kind of feeling the pressure because since January of this year, there's been no increases. And of course, the prices of goods have gone up, 2, 3, 4, 5%, depending on what type of goods they are. And so especially if they're, mainly living on Social Security and that's their main form of income, it starts to feel a little tight towards the end of the year. And then, of course, you have Christmas expenses and all that kind of stuff coming up. So I think the inflation increase, cost of living adjustment starting in 2024 is going to be a very welcome thing for a lot of Social Security people.
Yes. Is this increase normal? Like, is this something that happens each year, or is it abnormal or rare for them to make this type of increase?
Yeah, it's very normal for this to take place. So I mean, in 2023, starting at the beginning of 2023, everyone's Social Security went up 8.7%, and that's just because inflation was so terribly high back then. So that was a huge increase. Yeah, of course, and it still kind of continues to grow, just at a slightly slower pace.
Yeah.
But inflation itself is something that I think a lot of people, when they're entering retirement, kind of forget to calculate in their retirement plan. So one of the things that we do when retirees come in, or people who are retiring soon, is I have them fill out a budget sheet, which is something that a lot of times people haven't done in many years.
Right.
We'll fill it out and they'll say, okay, to live today with my normal standard of living, it takes $60,000 a year or something like that.
Yeah.
And so we'll use that for the 2023 goal, but we increase that amount by inflation every single year in their retirement. Because over the course of 20 years, even if inflation is only 2% over 20 years, that's a 50% increase in your costs. So if you need 60 grand at 65 years old, you're going to need $90,000 at 85 years old if your standard of living is staying the same.
Wow.
So that's a massive difference. And a lot of times, Social Security is probably the only form of income that people have in retirement that actually does increase with inflation. Your retirement accounts are not going to automatically, go up just because inflation went up.
Right.
Most annuities are not going up with inflation. Most pensions are not going up with inflation. And so we have to make sure we factor that in.
Yes, and when it comes to Social Security and the amount that each person gets, is it based off of just age and when you start accepting those benefits, or does it have to do with how much money you made in your salary or how much you contributed to the Social Security fund over your duration of your career?
Yeah, it's both actually.
Okay.
So they take a look at all the money that you've put into the Social Security system, and then they have another calculation to determine at what age are you taking this will determine how much money we give you. And so people can go online, even if you're not even close to retiring, you can still go online. The Social Security system will be able to know what you've paid in taxes and what you've contributed to the Social Security system, and you can see an estimate of what your Social Security will be at different ages.
Yeah.
And an important thing to note on that is that's always in today's dollars, the amount that they show you on there. So in reality, if retirement is 10 years away, that amount will be higher, but of course, goods and services will be higher too.
Yeah. And is there any other way that inflation plays a role in someone determining their proper retirement plan? I mean, of course, coming in and talking about how to plan it out with your Social Security, but is there any other pre-planning that people can do?
Another thing that comes to mind recently is that if people have too much cash in the bank, inflation is just slowly eating away at that cash. So the amount of goods and services that 100 grand in the bank could buy is slowly shrinking every single year because everything's getting more expensive. And so part of the planning that we do for people is we say, hey, there are ways that we can keep this conservative if somebody's conservative and wants access to the money, but we can put it in something that's actually going to keep up with inflation, maybe like bonds or CDs or something like that, especially when interest rates are so high.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for this new information.
You bet.
Caleb.
Thank you.
Foster Financial creates financial plans that factor into inflation. And you can actually give them a call to get your complimentary consultation. And we'll have that information listed below. And we'll be right back. This segment sponsored by Foster Financial.